betrayed by his own brothers, sold as a slave in a foreign land, forgotten in prison, but still he never gave up. This is the story of a dreamer who went from the pit to the palace, not by chance, but by purpose. What if your greatest pain was part of God's greatest plan? Stay with us, because Joseph's story might just be yours too. Joseph was just 17 when his life began to change. He was the favorite son of Jacob, born to him in his old age through his beloved wife, Rachel. To show his special love, Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful coat of many colors. But while Joseph felt loved, his brothers felt jealous. They saw how their father favored Joseph. They heard him talk about dreams where he stood tall and they bowed before him. It was too much. They began to hate him. They couldn't speak to him kindly. They couldn't bear the sight of that colorful coat. Still, Joseph didn't stop dreaming. And one day he shared another vision. I dreamed the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed to me. Even his father wondered what it meant. Joseph had no idea that the road ahead would be long, painful, and full of lessons. He was about to go from dreamer to prisoner, and then to ruler. But the God who gave him the dreams would never leave his side. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the fields. He wore his colorful coat, unaware of the danger waiting for him. When the brothers saw him coming, their jealousy turned into a plan. "Here comes the dreamer," they sneered. "Let's kill him and see what becomes of his dreams." Reuben, the oldest, stopped them. "Let's not shed his blood. Throw him into a pit instead." He hoped to rescue Joseph later. So they stripped Joseph of his coat and threw him into a dry, empty pit. While Joseph cried out in fear, the brothers sat down to eat. Then a caravan of traders passed by. Judah had another idea. Why not sell him? We'll get rid of him without killing him. So they sold their brother for 20 silver coins. They dipped his coat in goat's blood and took it to their father. Jacob wept bitterly, believing his beloved son had been torn apart by wild animals. Joseph, meanwhile, was being taken far from home, to a land he'd never seen, with people he didn't know. Joseph was sold to a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh in Egypt. At first, it seemed like the end of his story, but even as a slave, God was with him. Joseph worked hard, stayed honest, and soon earned Potiphar's trust. He was put in charge of the whole household. Everything he touched seemed to succeed. But then trouble came. Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph. She tried to tempt him day after day. But Joseph refused. "How can I do this evil and sin against God?" he said. One day, when no one was around, she grabbed his robe and begged him to lie with her. Joseph ran, but she kept his robe and used it to lie about him. She told her husband Joseph tried to hurt her. Potiphar was furious. Joseph, though innocent, was thrown into prison. From a pit to slavery, and now prison, Joseph's life seemed to keep getting worse. But God was not finished with him yet. Joseph sat in prison, his heart heavy but his spirit unbroken. He didn't understand why these things kept happening, but he didn't give up on God. The prison warden noticed Joseph's honesty and hard work. Before long, Joseph was placed in charge of the other prisoners. Even in prison, God's favor followed him. One day, 2 of Pharaoh's officials were thrown into jail, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. They each had strange dreams and looked troubled. Joseph noticed. "Why do you look so sad today?" he asked. "We had dreams, but there's no one to explain them," they said. Joseph replied, "Interpretations belong to God. Tell me your dreams." They did. Joseph, through God's wisdom, told them what the dreams meant. The cupbearer would be restored to his job. The baker, sadly, would be executed. Everything happened just as Joseph said. As the cupbearer was freed, Joseph asked, Please remember me when you return to Pharaoh." But the cupbearer forgot. Joseph was left in prison, still waiting. 2 years passed. Joseph remained in prison. Then one night, Pharaoh had 2 dreams that troubled him deeply. In one, 7 fat cows were eaten by 7 skinny cows. In the next, 7 healthy heads of grain were swallowed by 7 thin ones. Pharaoh woke disturbed. He called all the magicians and wise men of Egypt, but no one could explain the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. "There's a Hebrew prisoner who explained my dream. It came true." Pharaoh sent for Joseph. In a rush, Joseph was shaved, given clean clothes, and brought before the king. "Can you explain my dream?" Pharaoh asked. Joseph replied, "I cannot, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he needs." Joseph listened to the dreams and then explained, "God is showing you what is about to happen. There will be 7 years of great harvest, followed by 7 years of terrible famine. Store food during the good years to survive the bad." Pharaoh was amazed. Pharaoh turned to his advisors and asked, "Can we find anyone like this man, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made this known to you, I will put you in charge of Egypt. Only I will be greater than you." Just like that, Joseph went from prisoner to prince. He was dressed in fine robes, given a gold ring and chain, and rode in Pharaoh's second chariot. He was 30 years old. Joseph took his role seriously. During the 7 good years, he traveled across Egypt, collecting food and filling storehouses. The crops were abundant, just as God had said. And when the 7 years of famine began, Egypt was ready. People from every land came to buy food, including Joseph's own family. Back in Canaan, Jacob and his sons were suffering from the famine. Hearing that Egypt had food, Jacob sent 10 of his sons, all but Benjamin, to buy grain. When they arrived in Egypt, they bowed before Joseph. They didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. He remembered his dreams. Joseph didn't reveal himself. Instead, he tested them. "You are spies," he said. "No, my lord," they replied. "We are honest men. We came to buy food." Joseph questioned them. "You said you have a younger brother at home. Bring him to me. Until then, one of you will stay in prison." He chose Simeon and sent the rest back with food, and secretly returned their silver. The brothers were afraid. "What is God doing to us?" they wondered. When the brothers returned, Jacob was heartbroken. He didn't want to lose Benjamin. "Joseph is gone. Simeon is gone. Must I lose Benjamin too?" But when their food ran out again, he had no choice. Judah stepped forward. "I will take responsibility for him. If I don't bring him back, I'll carry the blame forever." So the brothers returned to Egypt, this time with Benjamin. Joseph saw them and ordered a feast prepared. He welcomed them kindly but tested them again. He seated them in order of age, to their surprise. He gave Benjamin 5 times as much food. Still, they didn't suspect. Joseph was waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. Joseph filled their sacks with grain, but he secretly placed his silver cup in Benjamin's bag. Then he sent his steward after them. "Why have you stolen my master's silver cup?" he demanded. The brothers were shocked. "If any of us have it, let him die." They searched the bags, and found the cup in Benjamin's. Heartbroken, they tore their clothes and returned to Joseph. Judah stepped forward. "Please, let me take his place. Our father will die if Benjamin doesn't return." Joseph could no longer hold back his tears. Joseph sent everyone else out of the room. Then he wept loudly. "I am Joseph," he said. "Is my father still alive?" His brothers were speechless, terrified. But Joseph reassured them. "Don't be afraid. You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good. He sent me ahead to save lives." He hugged them, wept over them, and forgave them. "Go back quickly. Bring my father here." You will live in Goshen, and I will take care of you." The brothers returned with joy. Jacob could hardly believe the news. "My son Joseph is alive. I must go and see him before I die." Jacob couldn't believe the news. For years he had mourned the loss of his son. Now, his sons were telling him, "Joseph is alive. He is ruler of all Egypt." His heart nearly stopped. But when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent, his spirit came back to life. "It is enough," he said. "Joseph, my son, is alive. I will go and see him before I die." God appeared to Jacob in a vision and said, "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt. I will go with you, and I will make you into a great nation there." So Jacob and his entire family, sons, daughters, grandchildren, began the journey. 70 people in all traveled with him to Egypt. As they approached, Joseph prepared his chariot and hurried to meet his father. When they saw each other, Joseph threw his arms around him and wept for a long time. Jacob said, "Now I can die in peace, for I have seen your face again." Joseph brought 5 of his brothers to meet Pharaoh. They explained they were shepherds and asked to live in Goshen, the best land for their flocks. Pharaoh agreed and told Joseph, "Let them live in Goshen. And if any are skilled, put them in charge of my livestock." Then Joseph brought his father Jacob before Pharaoh. Jacob blessed Pharaoh and said, "The years of my life have been short and difficult, but God has been with me." So the family settled in Goshen. Joseph provided food for them and cared for them during the famine. The land of Egypt was struggling, but the family of Jacob thrived under Joseph's care. God had turned their sorrow into joy, just as he promised. As the famine continued, people from all over Egypt and beyond came to Joseph for food. First, they paid with money. Then, when the money ran out, they offered their livestock. Eventually, they said, "We have nothing left but our land and our bodies." So Joseph exchanged food for their land and made them servants of Pharaoh. He gave them seed and said, "You may farm the land. Give a fifth to Pharaoh and keep the rest for yourselves." The people agreed. "You have saved our lives," they said. "We are grateful." Joseph's wise leadership helped Egypt survive. And even in crisis, he treated the people with fairness and dignity. Meanwhile, Israel's family lived peacefully in Goshen. Their numbers grew and they prospered. As Jacob grew older, he became sick. Joseph brought his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to see him. Jacob sat up and said, "These 2 sons of yours will be mine, just like Reuben and Simeon." Then he reached out to bless them. Joseph placed Manasseh, the older son, at Jacob's right hand, and Ephraim, the younger, at his left. But Jacob crossed his hands, placing his right hand on Ephraim. Joseph tried to correct him, but Jacob said, "I know, my son. Manasseh will be great, but Ephraim will be greater." Jacob also gave blessings to all his sons, speaking words over each one about their future and their descendants. Some blessings were gentle, others were warnings, but each was guided by God. After blessing his sons, Jacob gave them one final instruction: "Bury me with my fathers in the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham and Isaac are buried." Then Jacob breathed his last and was gathered to his people. Joseph fell on his father's face and wept. He ordered the Egyptian doctors to embalm his father, which took 40 days. The Egyptians mourned him for 70 days. Joseph asked Pharaoh's permission to bury his father in Canaan. Pharaoh agreed, and a large group, Joseph, his brothers, and many officials, traveled to bury Jacob with honor. They held a great mourning ceremony at the burial site. Then the brothers returned to Egypt. Though their father was gone, the family remained together. But fear would soon return to their hearts. After Jacob's funeral, Joseph's brothers began to worry. With their father gone, they feared Joseph might now seek revenge for what they did to him years ago. They gathered together and sent a message to Joseph. Before our father died, he told us to beg for your forgiveness. Please forgive the sins of your brothers who wronged you. Then they came and fell down before Joseph. We are your servants, they said. But Joseph's heart was not full of anger. It was full of grace. He wept when he heard their words. Don't be afraid, Joseph said kindly. Am I in the place of God? You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good. He brought me here to save many lives. He comforted them and spoke kindly to them. I will take care of you and your children. Joseph had truly forgiven. His love for his family was stronger than his pain. Joseph remained in Egypt with his family. As the years passed, the Israelites grew in number and strength. The story of how God used Joseph spread through generations. Joseph lived to see his children's children. He often spoke of God's promises and reminded his family, one day, God will take you out of this land and bring you to the land he promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He made his family swear an oath. When God comes to rescue you, take my bones with you. Don't leave me here in Egypt. Joseph believed, even if he didn't see the promise fulfilled in his lifetime. His faith became a guiding light for those who would come after him. Joseph lived to be 110 years old. He had been a slave, a prisoner, and a ruler. But most of all, he had been faithful. When the time of his death came, he gathered his brothers and family and said, I am about to die. But God will surely come to help you and take you to the land he promised. Then Joseph died. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. But his story didn't end there. His bones would one day be carried out of Egypt, just as he had asked. The God who was with him in the pit, in the prison, and in the palace, that same God would lead his people home. The story of Joseph doesn't end in Genesis. It lives on in every person who has ever felt betrayed, abandoned, forgotten, or falsely accused. It speaks to dreamers, to those in dark places, and to anyone wondering if God still sees them. Joseph's life reminds us, God is always with us. He works through pain, uses delays to build purpose, and turns suffering into strength. From a pit to a prison, to a palace and a nation, Joseph's journey was not easy, but it was blessed. And just like Joseph, when we trust God, forgive freely, and keep believing, we too can see his hand write a greater story from our lives. Subscribe for more Bible story. Like, share, and comment.